I don't think the public understands miscarriage very well. I mean this in a bunch of ways. I don't think there is much understanding of how common miscarriage is or how and why it typically happens. And it seems like there's very little understanding of how people often psychologically react to it. There are tons of personal stories compounded with actual research that finds that miscarriage, especially earlier in pregnancy, is marked by minimization of the loss by others. The minimization could be in the form of people choosing not to discuss it or address it when they know someone's gone through a loss, or it could be people trying to say things that are comforting but that actually end up being pretty minimizing, like, well, at least you know you can get pregnant, or at least it wasn't a real baby yet, or at least. Society also minimizes miscarriage in the way that the medical community often reacts to it. This is a huge topic for lost parents. Medical professionals and institutions usually are pretty adept at handling the physical implications of miscarriage, but they lack the training or protocols or resources to handle the event in a way that is emotionally appropriate. I actually recently had an article published in the journal Narrative Inquiry and Bioethics talking about this very issue, and we reprinted it on our blog here if you want to check it out. One of the specific ways that the medical community can, not on purpose, but incidentally make a miscarriage a lot harder for parents is to not have any protocols in place for handling the remains of the child. From referring to the child as medical waste, to not releasing the remains to the parents for burial or cremation, to all sorts of bureaucratic problems. We just had someone contact our group today to ask if we had resources to help him and his wife dealing with a late first trimester loss. And specifically, he was wondering what they can do to ensure that their child's remains are handled with dignity. This is a recurrent question we get, and we're trying to start collecting resources for people, but one organization that I can recommend is called the Little Souls at Rest Foundation. It was founded by parents who went through the same trauma, where they're already dealing with the loss of their child, and then on top of that, they had to deal with a lot of logistical issues and bureaucracy and insensitivity in trying to get the remains handled appropriately. So now the Little Souls at Rest Foundation offers services to other parents going through a loss. Specifically, they will interface with hospitals and funeral homes and attaining caskets that are the appropriate size, things like that, that you don't want to have to be trying to manage while you're already dealing with an emotional crisis. And for families that don't have the funding for funeral or burial, they have donors who help support that. So if you need services like that or you end up knowing someone who does, keep them in mind.